Good evening. We will call to order the Monday, September 24th, 2018 meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit Board of Directors. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish quorum?
Director Budge? Here. Director Hanson? Director Harris?
Here.
Director Hume? Director Jennings?
Here.
Director Miller? Director Morin?
Here.
Director Natoli?
Here.
Director Chenier?
Here.
Director Cerna is marked as being absent, and Chair Kennedy.
Here.
With that, we have a quorum at 91 votes.
Thank you.
This meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel. Tonight's meeting will air on September 26th at 6 o'clock p.m. and on October 2nd at 9 a.m. and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. It is also closed captioned. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker card located at the rear of the room and provide it to me or Adam. Please speak into the microphone and state your name for the record. We would appreciate everyone turning off their cell phones. Thank you. And the arrival of Director Hanson.
Thank you very much. Just diluted Mr. Chenier's votes. Yeah. And Mr. Lonergan, might I say that you look very good in that chair.
Thank you very much.
All right. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item.
First item is the consent calendar, items 1 and 2, and you do have a speaker on item 2.
We do.
Mr. Chair, could we just pull item 2 for discussion, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, we will pull item 2. And I believe Ms. Kerber has a card in.
Good evening, Chair and members of the board. My name is Sarah Kerber, and I'm a member of the Sacramento Transit Riders Union, and I'm here to speak on item number 2. While we appreciate the regional transit's commitment to both innovative curb-to-curb transit solutions and their commitment to reducing carbon emissions through the purchase of fully electric vehicles, we have concerns that in the rush to purchase these vehicles, the ADA accessibility of the vehicles being purchased and overall safety is becoming an afterthought. SAC-RT's Mobility Advisory Council's purpose is to specifically review and advise RT on system accessibility features and improvements, provide communication between RT and key stakeholders. Being involved in the design and procurement of new vehicles is directly in line with the mission and purpose of the MAC. Bringing them into the decision-making process after procurement, or not at all, undermines their ability to engage in a meaningful way. Unfortunately, these projects are not being brought before the MAC to ensure their compliance with state and federal laws or best practices in access. Earlier this month, funding was approved for 6 EV Star 25-foot electric buses for Regional Transit Smart Ride RT Microtransit Pilot Project that are not ADA accessible. Neither that purchase nor the solutions to make those buses accessible were reviewed by the MAC prior to the completion of that agreement. Likewise, the purchase and design of these buses has not been brought before the MAC to ensure that they are ADA compliant and accessible. In light of the fact that the next MAC meeting will not be until November 1st, we request that this item not be voted on prior to their review and recommendations to the board and staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Budge.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I had some operational kinds of questions. Personally, I totally support the acquisition of these buses and the project. I think from my perspective, owning our own fleet of small buses and small EV buses in particular is an absolutely attractive idea. And I appreciate the fact that if the contract were terminated, then the buses would remain in the ownership of Regional Transit as long as they were used in some capacity. Those are things that I think are my really strong points. However, I had 2 questions. There's a discussion about transferring ownership of the charging infrastructure to Electrify America, and then they would be able to allow others to use the equipment. So my question, and I suspect this is naive in terms of the world of buses, but is the charging infrastructure for a commercial application like this different from a residential application?
Okay, I can answer that question. The charging infrastructure is a fast charge, 150 kilowatt fast charge unit that would be good for a variety of commercial uses, a little bit large for home use.
Okay, so it's even faster than something we might be used to, like a Tesla fast charge.
No, it could be in that range of a Tesla fast charge. It's basically a 150 kilowatt charger.
Okay, and I don't know what the rating is. I just know you can charge up to 300 miles in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, that would be
fast charge.
a similar function.
Okay, so and so then the question is, and then there's a discussion about making sure that the charging equipment is installed in a location where others could use it. So given the fact that SMUD and others have been out around at least this region trying to install more chargers in places, then it would seem like that kind of infrastructure would be something that would be really valuable for RT to retain control of. But the one thing, and those are just comments, but the one thing that I thought was unique about this, I didn't see a discussion of the actual need for the buses to run between the Davis campus and the Med Center. And I would personally love to know what that need is, because probably most of us know nothing about the program of being a medical student. Do people transfer or move back and forth between the campuses all the time? Is there that much need, or is there a need for, because it doesn't seem like this is available for passengers. I mean, just, or patients.
It's actually fully open door, so it would be available to anyone who wanted to ride it, student, patient, worker, doctor, anyone who wanted to use the service. Different from it as it runs today.
It just seems that is it really logical to run it between the Davis campus and the Med Center campus as opposed to around the area to pick up people at the Med Center or to take people to and from the Med Center the way they, at least in the past, have run a shuttle bus from the 39th Street station?
So I believe.
So if anybody else has got other
Yeah,
information, I'd love to.
Director
know.
Budget, yeah, I believe Director Chenier is itching to get in on this conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's a couple things on this. One is the new chancellor and UC Davis generally have a desire to be more a part of Sacramento, and being on the Davis campus, they really don't connect very well. So that's a piece of the puzzle. The second is around Aggie Square and UC Davis's desire to build basically a satellite campus in Oak Park and locate a number of their schools there, with the idea that there could be 5,000 to 10,000 jobs and a similar number of folks who are going to school there. So this would really be a connection between those two areas. I know the mayor and Chancellor May have had a number of discussions about this, highlighting the need to do this and really the opportunity that this presents itself to more and better connect UC Davis to the city of Sacramento.
I do understand that concept. So it might be a little bit premature at this point in time, but as soon as Aggie Square gets off the ground, there's an opportunity for it to be very well used.
Yeah.
And this is replacing an existing service that runs much less frequently between the campus and the UC Med Center currently. That's been running for probably 50 years.
What happened?
And it's closed door.
5-0 or 15?
5-0, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I drove it when I was at UC Davis, and the horses are tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Director Natoli.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up to the comments from Sac True. So what is the process for having the Mobility Advisory Committee get a chance to review things either in advance, or I guess the request this evening was
to have them review it before we would take action, but this isn't the first time this has come up, so I guess, Mark, I'd put the question to you as to how we normally route things through. Opportunities may come up that don't, allow us an opportunity, maybe on very short notice, but some of these things are in the works, at least well enough in advance that I would assume the MAC could be called into session if they have an interest in that matter. We think that, or that we think we, should have them advise us, at least take a look at something. So I guess I'm kind of curious as to, because this isn't the first comment we've had at meetings, certainly over the last few months, where folks have said, well, how about the MAC?
It is our process to route them
Okay.
through the MAC,
Okay.
and we will route these through the MAC as well. And in fact, we've had some discussion with MAC
Okay.
on the 25-foot buses that were mentioned. One of the different aspects of this with Electrify America is that they have really not wanted us to have discussions outside the discussions with them until basically we had this contract in place. So we haven't had any discussions with bus manufacturers yet over an order, the specific design of the vehicle, all the things that MAC would be interested in under the Electrify America buy. We are trying some things out there that are with the 6 buses that were mentioned that are a little different. In that small bus range, the 25-foot shuttle bus size, finding a really good zero-emission bus is very difficult, and so we want to try a new manufacturer and just see how they work before we jump in too far. And so the accessibility on those first 6 buses is not all that we would like it to be. They are fully accessible, but not the way we would like to see it. But we want to try some of these vehicles in this space to see if those are the vehicles we want to go with in the future. As many of you know, we've run cutaways in this space for a long time, and they're kind of a miserable bus. They are rattly and noisy, and they don't last and hold up very well. 5 years is a long time for those buses, and we're trying to find something better. And so that's our thinking initially. It's a new company that's going to be ultimately building these in Porterville.
Okay, so what I heard embedded in that you, because this is early in this process and because of some of the constraints you had in working with the provider here, Electrify America, that you will be going back to the MAC on some of the discussions that will ensue as it relates to this item, right?
Correct. To get to MAC, we actually have to get this contract in place.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to weigh in and say, since you were talking about horses, Mark, that we're not supposed to look a gift bus in the mouth.
That's exactly right.
And essentially here we've got a really exciting opportunity to deploy electric buses in the region at no cost to our agency from the acquisition side. I do think that continuing to ensure that the MAC and our vehicles are fully accessible is a critical value for our agency. I do, though, think that this is a little bit unique, and if we have a commitment from you to continue to work on that, I'm satisfied. I was a little bit more worried about some of the comments in the letter from SAC-TRU about the micro transit buses not being accessible. And maybe I misunderstood, but are they accessible to the standard that we normally require?
So the first 6 we receive, the demo we had here was not accessible, but it will be converted so it will carry 1 wheelchair. It loads from the rear, which is not ideal for us, and that's kind of their first prototype buses. They were an opportunity for us because they were made for another client who bailed on or backed out of the deal. The buses after that will be a little bit wider, manufactured in Porterville, and will be accessible for 2 wheelchairs from the curbside loading that we like. So that's the direction it's going. But if the buses prove to be unreliable, then we're looking for a different vehicle.
Okay. Well, I take to heart the comments from SAC-TRU and hope staff continues to work with the MAC. But given this opportunity and the tremendous generosity of Electrify America, especially as we work with them too on a possible route to the airport as well as other things, I'd say I'll move the item.
It's moved by second by Director Budge. I will say too, if there's no other comments, that my conversation with Electrify America is that this was not my first choice of routes to be chosen. That I think the airport is something that I really hope that if there's another go-around, and there will be, that they'll look very seriously at. So with all that, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
I'm sorry, Chair Kennedy, are we moving both items 1 and 2 as the consent calendar?
I believe that was the motion, was it not?
I believe that 1 was removed from the consent that
So we're-
item 2 was removed from the consent calendar, but without objection from
Right.
Director Budge, who requested that. I'll move items 1 and 2
Works for me.
as part of the consent calendar, because we never
Agreed.
officially made that decision.
That's a yes.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
clarification.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, the motion passes at 95 votes. Next item is item number 3, resolution. Amending resolution number 17060088, authorizing staff to request an allocation of Proposition 1A for the downtown riverfront streetcar project and conditioning the use of Proposition 1A funds on future board action, presented by Mark Lonergan. And we are teleconferencing in Mr. Henry Lee at this time.
Hey,
Did you find anything?
Hi, Henry.
You're live with everyone.
yeah, yes, okay.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear some of you.
Well, can you hear me?
No, I haven't even had a chance.
Can you hear me?
Not really good.
Okay. Well, we're going to give it a shot. Henry, at any point you start dropping out, let us know, and we'll try to figure it out. So, Mr. Lonergan.
Okay, thanks.
So let me take a moment to introduce this. Chair Kennedy and members of the board, the issue again before you is an action to release $3.5 million of the $25 million in Prop 1A funding that the SAC-RT board allocated to the project last year. The issue paper and proposed action incorporates board discussion of this issue when it was presented as an informational item at the last meeting, September 10th. The action is conditioned on 3 major concerns that we heard expressed at the September 10th board meeting. The first is a requirement that the cities reimburse SAC-RT should the CTC later determine that the expenditure of any or all of the $3.5 million was ineligible for some reason. The second condition is that the JPA consider or approve a request of the SAC-RT board to add direct SAC-RT representation to the JPA. And the third requires the board to approve the actual release of funds upon receipt of construction bids, assuming they either allow the project to be completed within budget or the cities and JPA agree on a revised budget. These were the conditions that we heard, and that concludes my opening remarks.
Okay, is there any questions of the board at this point? We do have some cards.
Can I just add a little bit, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I just want to say, the RT staff, JPA staff, city staff, we work together on this fine and well-balanced, issue paper, try to take care of, concerns from all aspects, from different partners. So staff feel confident, these recommendations are, being seriously considered and analyzed, and hope the community and the board can support this recommendation.
Thank you. Yes,
Just really quickly, and I want to come back after public comment if I can, but I just want to note that the conditions were never voted upon by this board. It was individual board members who brought some of these things up.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Noted. Any other questions before we hear from the public? All right. Dennis Newfield.
I read the 3 conditions, Chairman Kennedy and the board, and I thought there might be a need for a little editing here. I in Sacramento do support this resolution. Item 1, Steve Barassa is going to comment on that. And item 2, there's some ambiguity there. I think the word consider should be removed. I think you want to firmly add the RT member to the JPA. So the ambiguity would be removed by getting rid of the word consider. Now on the third condition, I think we need to nail down the budget and get that identified wherever it is at the moment. If you just say the budget, that budget can change as time goes by. So if you folks can get that budget nailed down, with a firm number, then the rest of the bids coming in will then be compared to that firm number. So that's the minor edits that we suggest, and we do overall support the resolution.
Great, thank you. Stephen Barassa.
Greetings, Board. Ion Sacramento, we appreciate the work that's been done on this item and securing the interests of Regional Transit. We would like it amended to add a contingency that the cities reimburse SAC-RT if the project is ultimately abandoned. This was discussed at the last meeting. There was a concern that this language would not be able to be drafted by this meeting, but given the fact that these funds won't be used until next year, I think there's plenty of time to add that safeguard to this item. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Coca-Cola, the member of the public with my favorite name.
There have been many permutations over the years, as you can imagine. Coco Cocazella. This evening, I'm speaking on behalf of Sacramento Transit advocates and riders. Potentially some redundancy, but I'll say the comment anyway, since I had prepared to come and represent this group. So prefacing it by saying there's a letter that was sent to the board on August 22nd from STAR. So I'll just reiterate some of this. And I'll use the acronym SSGA to stand for Small Starts Grant Agreement. In light of the uncertainty surrounding SB1 transportation funding, as well as federal funding in the future, maintaining existing service and rebuilding ridership and a strong reserve must be SAC-RT's funding priorities. The streetcar project must overcome a variety of serious issues before it can get an SSGA from the FTA. In light of the uncertainty surrounding the streetcar, SAC-RT should have a guarantee that its funds will not be wasted. There must be a guarantee from the cities that if the streetcar does not obtain the SSGA or is not built, RT's Proposition 1A money will be refunded within an agreed upon time. STAR urges the board not to approve any release of funds from SAC-RT's state Prop 1A money until the project receives the SSGA from the FTA or the two cities guarantee to refund the money within a fixed time should the project not obtain the SSGA or not be built. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jeffrey Tartagia. Good evening, Jeffrey.
Good evening, Patrick, Chairman and Board. My concern is on threefold. The first one is the last time the streetcar met, it didn't have a quorum. The two meetings before that I met, neither Jeff Hansen or Steve Harris advocated for a RT board member to be on there. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, Jeff Harris. No, is that right? I apologize, Jeff. I mean, I will ruin names at all times and say through there. Wait till you get when I get around with Steven through there. But anyway, those two things have not happened. You've got Measure U funding coming up, and if it fails through there, it seems to me like the next time the streetcar does meet, and if it is $209 million of what the federal budget, should we say, request is, the $214 million of expenses going out from City Hall for construction along 3rd Street, or what else is going to be in there, it seems to me like you should really be considering, if it isn't going to advance, what is the backup plan? And I think, hey, West Sacramento is willing to put $35 million in. Let's make that work out and see from there our street where the storage area is out, and maybe the new Broadway Bridge might be a good way of taking the streetcar across to Sacramento as a phase 1 or phase 2 project before you get after when the convention center is done and around the Memorial Auditorium and to City Hall, and the wonderful thing of what's going on with the Sacramento Valley Station. That's my comments about, this wonderful initiative, that how it's funded and how long this has been going on, and really does it need to get revised and recognized for what it really could and should be.
Great, thank you, Jeffrey. All right, with that, any questions of the board? I believe we have a lineup here. I'll start with Vice Chair Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought we had a very robust conversation at the last board meeting. I think some of the advocates who are here and some of the advocates who were here last time made very salient points, which I think the staff have largely captured in the recommendation. I think the ultimate goal is how to mitigate risk that the project isn't funded, but keep the project moving forward during the consideration phase. I spent a lot of time talking to our staff, the JPA staff, about when we would find out the risk review, the construction bid timeline, and then a potential full funding grant agreement from the FTA. And it seems to me that we are in a window of opportunity right now where we don't know what's going to happen, but because this resolution is drafted that this has to come back to us in January before funds are released, I think that we've given a lot of security both to our organization and minimize the risk that funds would be released if the project either A, for some reason can't move forward because of construction bids or some other unforeseen circumstance. I'm very supportive of the idea that we continue to get more opportunity at the JPA board for regional transit to have a voice. Mr. Harris and I both sit on that board, so you've got two of us. I'm not sure who the third would be, but that also requires agreement from the city of West Sacramento for who that fifth board member is. We raised it before. I believe that it's perfectly appropriate to continue to ask the JPA to add a regional transit direct board member. I'm not sure who the volunteer would be. I probably can't do it with all the other things going on because I'm already on that board. So I think as we move forward, some of the requests, and I on Sacramento, I think that's the first time, Dennis, I've ever heard you say you support something with amendments, and I almost fell out of my chair. But thankfully the wheels rolled back a little bit and caught me. I think that the conditions you propose, I'd like to talk to them for a second, speak to them. The first one, the city of Sacramento has given a significant amount of consideration already to regional transit by working to create new storage track, by working to renegotiate, and we have actually approved the new operations agreement between the city and regional transit. And I think in partnership, the board members here who thought those agreements needed to be restructured, who also serve on the city council, pushed very hard for that. And in partnership with the city of Sacramento in particular, I think regional transit would be acting in bad faith if we now asked for the city to repay these funds should the federal government not come through. I do think that there's value in parts of the project as the staff report describes, but I think that if we now stipulate the cities must repay this, then the city of Sacramento should revoke the amendments to the 1985 agreement, which some of these funds were predicated on. And I just don't think that that's the kind of partnership we want. The board member issue, your item number 2, remove the word consider. Even if we removed it, I don't think that would change the conversation. I do think that it comes down to hopefully some of you talking to our friends in the city of West Sacramento, prevailing upon them about the importance of the transit expertise that board members bring to this project. But ultimately the project, and a lot of this money is going to our own RT staff to carry out the construction schedule, the building process, and I think we have very good staff. I think the Blue Line construction is about the best project we've done in a long time, under budget, under schedule, and I think that there are significant opportunities for our staff to raise issues. Mr. Valsecki is here from the JPA staff, as is Mr. Trost, but the vast majority of people working on this project actually are people who work for Mr. Henry Lee and this board of directors here at Regional Transit. So I think we have our fingers all over on this. And the last thing I'd say is I don't really understand your final condition. I think that the reason that we wanted a chance to revisit this in January before the funds are released are simply that we want to know what the construction bids come back in December, so we could make an informed decision. I think at that point, your third consideration is absolutely appropriate. Did the project come in under budget, on budget, over budget? How are we going to manage that? And where do we stand with the full funding grant agreement? And I think we can have that conversation in January. So I think largely very good comments, but I'm prepared to move the item and support the staff recommendation. I believe we've mitigated the risk, and I think that this is a fair way to move forward while taking into account all of the reasonable concerns, whether it's SAC-TRU, STAR, Ion Sacramento have raised, without jeopardizing these funds until we get more information.
Okay, we do have a couple of, at least 3 board members who want to continue to speak. There was a motion. Is there a second to that motion to put on the floor? Second by Member Harris. Okay, so next we have Director Chenier. Okay. Director Harris.
Thank you, Chair. You know, if you read the language of these 3 stipulations, I think that the concerns of SAC-TRU, Ion Sacramento are actually encapsulated in them already. Director, this guy, Hanson.
Steve Harris.
Yeah, Steve Harris. I think he summed it up very well. So I won't go very long about this, but you know, as a SAC-RT board member, I think that with these stipulations encapsulated in the motion, that RT is made whole, that we're not going to lose ground, that we still are opening the door of opportunity, as Director Hanson had mentioned. The fact of the matter is the streetcar project really hinges upon the construction bids, and that is going to be the make it or break it moment. They're coming. I think that we need to keep this project moving until we know what it's going to cost and can make a reasonable decision about whether it's a viable project or not. As long as RT and its budget is made whole, and I think that it will be in the passage of this motion, I can certainly support it and give it just a little bit more time, but I would say this, that all eyes will be on those construction bids.
Director Hume.
Thank you, Chair. I'm probably going to throw a whole bunch of metaphors in my discussion here, so I apologize if I mix some of them up. But I think given the fact that this ultimate decision would come back in January, and the staff report says that the project has enough funding to get it through the end of the year, I'm wondering why we would agree to do this and then ask, oh, but can you tack on these conditions? Why not demand the conditions before we agree to do it? This, to me, it seems like we're giving the allowance to the kids before the chores have been done. So that's number one, is I would say let's figure out the governance and some of the larger issues, and then we'll figure out the risk to RT at a later date. Speaking of risk, I was in DC last week on different business and happened to have a meeting with the acting director of FTA. And once our business was conducted, I happened to mention the streetcar in passing, and the face that she made gave me the indication that the risk assessment is not looking good. Furthermore, the administration, and I'm speaking of the transit administration, not the White House administration, still continues to favor bus rapid transit or other modes that don't put so much of a heavy capital investment into the ground, especially in the face of the potential disruption of automation that could be coming. So I think that the risk assessment should be forthcoming. It's going to have some telling information with respect to this project. And you know, as I said, there seems to be some larger issues, governance and budget and so on, and the bids to come in, that I don't see the urgency in doing this now. So, you know, I would prefer that we put this off. But and I apologize for missing the last meeting. I understand the discussion was quite spirited.
And for the record, I only noticed one analogy in there. wasn't.
Well, we're putting the cart before the horse.
Okay, I missed that one. All right, okay, there's two, all right.
We don't want the horse to have left the barn.
No, I don't think you said that one. All right, Mr. Chenier.
Thank you. Just a couple things. First, let me see if I can address part of that. If we don't do this now, we're not allowed to move, we can't move forward on the planning aspects of this. And I'm going to ask Mr. Trost from SACOG to see if he can address the timing issues on this and why we want to move forward tonight. And I'm going to also address the allowance question. To me, this is putting your money on the table, saying, here it is. When you do your chores, you get it. So it's out there for them. But I think the timing question on the work progressing is the important one.
Yeah, thank you, Director Chenier. So the important thing here is that we have budgeted funds through the end of the calendar year, and even to do that, we are operating on a very thin budget to continue to maintain all the work that we need to do in order to put ourselves in position for a grant agreement by February or early March of 2019. The RT board action is needed tonight so that we can go to the California Transportation Commission later this month to get them to approve the allocation of the funds for this project. That will put us in a position to line it up so that as soon as we get some action from the RT board, if that's what you condition, we can immediately start spending those dollars the next day. If we wait, we have to wait for RT board action in January, get to the California Transportation Commission, and get those funds some months down the road in 2019, and that effectively stops the project. That's the timing issue for us.
So I think the important thing, and I'm going to support this motion, I want to make a couple of comments on it, but I think the important thing is to put ourselves in a position that when the feds are ready to act, we've lined up everything prior to that so that we can go. I think the mitigation factor here of us coming back to this board in January, once we've seen the bids, is the key, and that's where the risk factor is. If we cannot, or if the project and the JPA cannot do the project within the budget that it's put together based on the bids that we open up, then we're obviously going to have a very different discussion in January. But I think what we've done here and what Mr. Hansen has done through the motion and staff, and I appreciate all the work that's happened and all the conversations, thank you, Henry, as well, puts us in that position where we've mitigated the risk to a significant extent. I will say that for myself on item number 2 and asking the JPA board to consider or approve the request of SAC-RT to direct SAC RT representation, I think we're conflating a couple of things and doing the governance issue while we're trying to do the money issue. I would rather take those separately and continue to have that conversation if we want. If it's the will of the board, we'll move forward on this because that discussion will happen. I think the city on its own can do a couple things. We have in the current JPA, one RT member being on the JPA. We can say 2 of the city's RT members need to be on the JPA. But the RT is actually a contractor on this. They are not sitting on the board. So to me, that's a separate issue that we're kind of putting in the middle of something else here. I don't think we should, but I'm going to move forward with this, and I will vote yes because I think the timing of it is important. If we miss this, we miss CTC in October, and then we probably get the Small Starts grant get pushed back as well because we just won't be ready for it. So with that, I'm a yes vote on this.
Thank you. Director Nitroli.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair, excuse me. The I would just say on item 2 that maybe respectfully disagree with just Mr. Chenier on this. I was going to comment before he made the comment, but I think that coming back to RT kind of as the backstop bank as relates to advancing work is certainly a reasonable request. We entertain it this evening as part of the motion that's on the floor. But I will also say, as I've said previously when we've talked about this, that representation beyond what we currently have, I think is important. If we're going to continue to be not just a contractor, but a part of this project, again, and I think certainly Directors Harris and Hansen can carry that message and will represent us ably on that regard. But I think RT needs to have direct representation. And I guess I would just comment that I'm prepared to support the motion this evening. I think the caveats here are sufficient to at least assure that when we come back in January, we'll continue to have in place the ability to make some decision on the release of the money. But I guess I would also say as a part of that, that 2 says consider or approve. I guess I would hope there'd be some progress made as it relates to, and again, maybe this is a message for our brethren in West Sacramento, that as it relates to coming to this body, first for the $25 million, now for release of up to the $3.5 million, both were reasonable, and I think that they go behind a project that we'll know more about, as said by members here previously. But I will just say that representation is key. And I would hope that by the time we next visit this, assuming we will in January, right after the first of the year, that issue will have an answer maybe different than what we currently see.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah. Member Budge.
So could someone discuss or at least comment on Mr. Tro's point about the timing relative to the staff's comments about whether or not the CTC or somebody would find that using this money in this manner is an ineligible expenditure, and we might be required to reimburse it. Both that issue as well as the timing of needing this to continue to go forward with the route optimization study and other things that Regional Transit would have used this money for.
So I can respond. First of all, I absolutely agree with Mr. Trost's comments. The CTC meets in October and then not again until December. They have to approve the allocation request, which we would expect them to do in October, but we need board action to move forward with that. The concern about having to reimburse the money is that as the project has developed, we've gone to the CTC for an allocation request for an SVS loop. We've gone to the CTC for an allocation request. That's the Sacramento Valley Station, the loop related to the Green Line, for the streetcar. And what we're trying to protect RT from here is a condition in the future where neither project moves forward. And the CTC comes back and say, hey, wait, you've spent money from the Prop 1A pot, but you've never built anything. And we fully intend to go back to CTC and clean that up, but the timing's not working out for that. And so that's the only reason behind that. We don't believe we're doing anything inappropriate, and we don't believe that the CTC will actually require a repayment, but we've got some due diligence left to do and need to do that and move that forward. I don't think we would ever lose the money. I think it goes back into the Prop 1A mix if we were to have to repay it, but in a sense we would pay it twice, right? Because it would be spent and then we would repay that amount.
Ms. Budge, do you mind if I ask a clarifying question there? If the CTC approves this request and deems it eligible to be spent on the project, how could they later then deem it ineligible and do what you're saying, which is they would then say, nope, sorry?
So I think everything is predicated on the project actually moving forward. If it doesn't, then it's a different view from the CTC. I mean, no one is going to the CTC and saying, we want to spend this money and don't know if it's going to happen. So I think that's the concern.
And so the way we've drafted this report, just to follow that line of thinking, is that there are portions of this project, the light rail move from K to H, potentially the light rail connection to West Sacramento, that could still be built using some of the pre-development funds and the construction documents, everything else, but service regional transit in connecting to high-speed rail. Is not correct?
That's correct.
So we could still have portions of this project be built to service high-speed rail, which is the purpose of.
Yes, there's a variety of eligible projects that we could transition the money to with CTC, and you've named a few.
Okay.
Henry's watching HBO in his hotel room, apparently.
Or the Republican Senate hearings.
Any other questions? Okay, we do have a motion and a second. I will just only comment in that the next time this comes before us, my issues are going to be exactly what Supervisor Natoli's issues were. And if those aren't addressed, my support going forward will be questionable. So with that said, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you.
Motion carries at 95 votes. The next item is item number 4, information. Oh, I'm sorry, public addresses the board on matters not on the agenda. I apologize.
Cindy, my phone is dying. I'm going to get out from the board meeting. Okay.
Bye, Henry.
Okay.
Bye, Henry. Enjoy the barbecue.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Is there a general manager's report? Okay. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, we are. You are correct. And we have Mike Barnbaum.
Thank you. So from an announcement made online a few hours ago, I want to dedicate today's public address as the board on matters not on the agenda to everybody, but especially to Coco Cocozella, Director Andy Morin, and Owner and Chief Operating Officer Mark Lonergan. Attention Folsom stage line users. The City of Folsom will host an open house to discuss a proposal to transfer Folsom's transit services to the Sacramento Regional Transit District. The open house will be held on Wednesday, October 10th, from 3 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. in the Senior and Arts Center, located at 48 Natoma Street. Staff from both the City of Folsom and the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be available to discuss the proposed annexation, answer any questions, and seek input. As part of the proposal, SAC-RT is committed to a seamless transition with no impact to current riders. Service levels will be maintained or improved, and there are no short-term plans to make changes to the existing bus service, stage line branding, or fares. All current Folsom Transit staff will be offered similar positions within the Sacramento Regional Transit District. For more information, please contact Matt Mock at area code 916-461-6754 or MMAUK at folsom.ca.us. This is a very exciting project, posted just within the last 5 hours on Sacramento Regional Transit District's Facebook page. It's been an honor and pleasure to read it, especially to those that may not have access to Facebook or are receiving announcements like this online. With my history here, I know that several years ago, under a direction of a different board, perhaps the song was Separate Ways, Worlds Apart with RT in the city of Elk Grove. But it looks like the song is Come Together right now over me for RT and the city of Folsom. So I hope that everyone can attend this informational session and that it gets back to this board and the Folsom City Council before the changing of elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, and we actually miss your musical interludes, so appreciate that. Sarah Kerber, hang on. Yes, Sarah Kerber. Yeah.
Not yet. So, hi, my name is Sarah Kerber, and I'm with the Sacramento Region, or nope, that's wrong, SAC-TRU.
many hats.
So, yeah. SACTRU would like to thank everyone who recently participated in our Transit Rider Challenge over the last week, the SAC-RT Challenge. We had a great time watching the participants post on social media and engage with riders and members of the public. It was great seeing people react with so much enthusiasm and support to the images of people using and talking about public transportation. The photos spurred additional discussion of issues SAC-RT has been working on, such as the challenges at Wada 80 Station, improving accessibility, the cleanliness and safety on our system, how to use the Alert SAC-RT app, and the best way to take 20 selfies of yourself in a week. We also hope that the challenge highlighted for the riders in our highlighted for you that the riders in our region face many obstacles to using our public transit system. We know that the board understands how the system is underserving various communities, and we truly appreciate your work with the agency. Hopefully this was an opportunity to highlight that increased service is needed and to connect your constituents to other communities via public transportation. We will continue to advocate for more bus service in underserved neighborhoods throughout route optimization process and through the budget process. SACTRU looks forward to working with the members of the board and SAC-RT staff in the future to improve public transit access for all riders in our region. And now, the moment that everyone has been waiting for, our awards for our participants. Unfortunately, 2 of them are not here, but we have certificates of participation for Supervisor Cerna, Councilmember Chenier, and General Manager Mr. Lee. And we have a special award for our member of the community, Sean Dillon, who rode public transit 29 times last week and took a selfie. And we have a special award for Patrick Kennedy, who rode public transit 18 times and needed a selfie stick.
Oh, no. My wife will kill me if I ever use that.
So if the board would allow, if we could take a photo of everyone who participated with their awards. And I have your, Jay Chenier, I have your, I don't know if someone wants to take a photo for
Yeah,
Henry
let's
Lee.
get a photo. Let's get a photo. Come on, Jay. Get on. I have to do this.
Where do you want to do the photo?
So I couldn't get the plaques back, so I'll have to mail you.
Come on, Sean.
This is where being vertically challenged.
This is going to look better than your selfies.
Okay, we'll let you take your pictures and then I'm going to. One, two, three. Thank you. So, thank you so much for participating. Thank you, everybody. Looking to see you guys next year.
I will say that as much pain as I took in taking those selfies, because I hate them, I will say, though, that I actually got emails from people saying that they rode RT for the first time because of this. So, you know, it did something. Okay, Enzo Arona.
Good evening, directors and General Manager Henry Lee. My name is Enzo Arona. Tonight I'm commenting about the future of mobile access for Connect Card. As you're aware, the systems for mobile tickets, also known as Zip Pass, and the Connect Card are fragmented. When you load tickets or fare on one card, it does not reflect on the other system. To my understanding, we are spending money to merge these 2 systems. My proposal is to phase out this fragmentation by closing the Zip Pass system and focusing our energy on further digitizing the Connect Card system. Credit card readers that are enabled for mobile payments, like Apple Pay and Android Pay, use the same technology in our Connect Card readers on buses and at light rail stations. I propose the exploration of adding Connect Cards to mobile wallets, allowing passengers to tap on with their phones. This technology has been implemented around the country and the world. Systems that have adopted transit cards in mobile wallets include Portland's TriMet, Beijing Transit, and Japan nationwide under the Suica system. Now, according to my understanding, the Connect card does not store information on it, like a fare balance. It only stores an identifier. When you tap on, the reader contacts the database to see what your fare is. Now, with this functionality, this means that a user could choose interchangeably between using a Connect card and between using their cell phone Connect card. Users without mobile wallet-enabled smartphones could still make use of a new Connect card app, using it to reload fare onto their card. Sacramento Regional Transit and the Connect Card Consortium have the opportunity to make further leaps and bounds in moderning our area's fare payment system. On your desk is my comment, collected information, and a concept image on the topic for further inquiry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arona. I almost understood everything you said. But Mr. Lonergan, I consider that free labor, so contact him.
Absolutely, great ideas.
Thank you. Stephen Barroso.
I just quickly wanted to also express my appreciation for the members who participated in the SAC-RT Transit Challenge. Thoroughly enjoyable. I really thought Patrick Kennedy had it in the bag. I really enjoyed reading your posts, seeing your posts, and it was really great how you...
Your time's up, sir.
It was really great how you expressed, you shared the value of RT in your posts, and you shared little items of information like the Freeport Bakery stop, and also you were testing the microtransit, and very clever, sir. Thank you. And thank you to all the members who participated.
Thank you very much. Jeffrey Tartagia.
Jeffrey Tartagia. To the board. Later on, you're going to hear about the electronic bulletin boards. 2.5, 3 years ago in August is when I first had that subject brought up, and with Deborah and with many of the board members. This is going to be your general manager coming up through here. But I thought you might like the background. That was in August, and we're wanting to explain A, for all, B for the blue line, and G for the gold line, so that you would understand when you were downtown specifically what was going on. I understand there's more changes, and we have had, like the Broadway station, be out of service, and the also repeatedly at the Archive Plaza problems with it. The other thing I will also, that Mark is, it's not on there, but I've asked him to explain about the 41411 app. This is a text messaging service that this week has been added service notices. And that, I believe, came out of the fact that this last week we had for Route 30, where because of the disruption at the convention center, Route 30 had to be rerouted. So realizing the importance of getting to your passengers what was changing and going on in an immediate fashion. So this is what the text messaging service, the simplest service, but it's one that you really have a real difficult time understanding how to utilize it, because it's not explained very well on the website or any place else. The last thing I will bring up is we, I believe, having a route optimization procedure going on, I think this week. And I'm concerned is what your listening post has offered, what your stakeholders are, because I will still firmly tell you that right now, if you're going for increased ridership over the next 2 or 3 years, you fail this agency. What needs to happen is having, in a sense, the consistency and completeness of the bus transportation system. And you do not have that right now. And I think the January decision to run light rail 15 minutes does not resolve the simplification of 1 hour bus service on the weekend. And you still have the problem there of connecting up. You're trying to do it by doing light rail. Unfortunately, I think that misses the point of your route optimization of the system. And lastly, Andy, I hope that Harrison Center will suddenly become a destination that your public transportation service will manage on the weekend.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And I take it that you don't need to speak on the next item because you just addressed that.
Well, I hope to get the answers.
All right, thank you. Mike Barnbaum. Or actually, no, we're on item number 5.
Actually, we're on item number 4.
Yes, we are.
Information.
No confidence in the chair.
Second.
Let the record reflect. The next item is item number 4, information. Update on the license agreement between the Sacramento-Placerville Transportation Corridor Joint Powers Authority and the Placerville and Sacramento Valley Railroad, Inc. for excursion rail operations, presented by Mark Lonergan.
So I believe the issue paper is pretty clear on this. SAC RT is a member of this JPA. This is an informational update on actions that affect that portion of the JPA east of Folsom into El Dorado County and Placerville. It doesn't affect RT in any way or our future operations or plans, but we provide it just as an informational update to the board.
Okay, any questions? This is an informational item. Thank you.
Item number 5, general manager's report.
So as Mr. Tartaguia said, we did put in a response to the issues he brought up regarding our informational signs. We do have issues from time to time. They're fixed with anywhere from 2 days to 5 days, depending on where they are and when they're reported. His comments about the text messages, that's a service that we are taking advantage actually of our SOC being open 24/7, our Security Operations Center. And they are picking up and texting out through our alert app service disruptions. And it's been very effective and kind of a silent improvement to customer notification. We'll look into his comments about maybe doing a better job explaining all that to people, but we've been very pleased with getting more information out as it relates to service in a more timely way. The other item on the GM's report tonight is a real brief update from Ms. Salinas concerning the marketing efforts around our fare reduction that the board approved in August.
Good evening, Chair Kennedy and members of the SAC-RT board. Tonight I'm presenting SAC-RT's new promotional and awareness campaign based on the many initiatives that you recently passed. The campaign theme, We Heart You, is a love letter to our riders with a focus on RT investing back into the communities that we love and serve. The campaign goal is to educate current and prospective riders of the reduced fares and better service, and includes the secondary message of clean, safe, and convenient. Some of the campaign assets include dedicated webpage, digital and social media ads, 30-second television and movie theater ads, electronic billboards, radio ads, print ads in community newspapers, exterior and exterior bus ads, constant contact email blasts, postcard-sized handouts, signage at key light rail stations, and presentations to neighborhood associations. As Mark just talked about and Jeffrey talked about as well, we just did a push notification that many of you should have received on Friday if you have the Alert SAC-RT app. That was our first. And we will also be presenting a toolkit to each and every one of you that I hope that you will pass on to your constituents. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions or take feedback.
Vice Chair Hansen?
I think this is great. I would love to see that We Heart You in a sticker. But I had a question about the grammar in the Our Love letter.
Uh-huh.
Lower fares on buses and light rail plus better service.
Mm-hmm.
Is it meant to be and better service?
And better service.
So should it be 2 ands or 2 pluses so it's consistent?
Okay. Well, it can be an ampersand too, I guess.
I'm fine. I just think, you know, it'd be great to have that consistency. Okay. Otherwise, the grammar teacher in me was used by my English professors in college and after.
Okay, so we're setting up a new committee.
But otherwise, it's awesome.
Okay,
I
love
known
it.
as down in the weeds. So I just have a quick question.
We were already there.
Yeah. Just a quick question. You said you were going to send it out to us as board members.
Yes.
Is it also going to everybody's communications departments?
Yes, all our community partners as well, and we hope that people will pass along that. That'll include, because I know many of you have newsletters that you send out, and we hope that you'll include this information.
I love the whole concept. I mean, I think it's a great community-oriented, wonderful concept. So
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We're very excited about it. I think it's really positive.
Thank you. Any others? Thank you. Is that it?
Okay, that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. We do have 2 cards for item number 5. Mr. Mike Bombard. Barnbaum, sorry.
Thank you. So yeah, I want to piggyback on the oral presentation about the October campaign, but first just wanted to add into the meeting calendar. So you've got what October 10th is all about. The point of reference previous speaker made about the route optimization study and the stakeholders, that is Thursday of this week right here at 5:30. 5:30 to 7:30. This Friday, I'll be in Merced attending in person the San Joaquin JPA meeting. It will be teleconferenced back to the Rancho Cordova City Council chambers. So a call-in feature will be available from there. And at the last Capitol Corridor meeting, they announced that November 14th is their next meeting. That will be in the BART boardroom in Oakland, and they did discuss very heavily the one ticket, one seat policy, particularly on very busy morning weekday trains. We'll work with staff to get you a full report out as to what happened last Wednesday in Sacramento at your next board meeting on October 22nd. So on the campaign for October, really quickly. So you heard in the last mention of the Folsom presentation a couple of references to some songs, and songs and references like that make for very good marketing pieces as well. They go a long way. So I would want to piggyback on this campaign and assist staff. Probably the song or theme to go along with this would be All You Need Is Love by the Beatles. And that is on an app. You can't hear it anymore on the radio, unfortunately, but you could hear it on an app, not on We Heart, but iHeart 60s on the iHeart Radio app. Thank you. Commercial-free 60s hits.
Thank you, Mike, for that plug. I appreciate it. Sarah Kerber.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Kerber. I'm with SAC-TRU. We'd like to thank staff for explaining the many problems facing the digital message signs. We know that our members have raised this issue multiple times, and we're glad to have some more information about it. We hope that you'll continue to improve the announcement system available and improve communications with riders, such as real-time updates and using the audio system to give additional announcements to riders who may be visually impaired. And since now that we understand that the problems with the signs require notification by SAC-RT employees or the members of the general public when they malfunction, we'll begin to encourage our members to report damaged signs so they can help identify where they need to be replaced. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And with that, Mr. Lonergan, I will also add to, now that we're on the sign subject, when you go to the SAC Alert website and you have the drop-down box, there's nothing that to report. You have to do the other. This is sounds like it's an issue that's current and common enough that maybe we should have a drop-down for electronic sign issues.
I believe we can do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions, ideas, communications from the board? We're adjourned.